no está bien. Tú, Nieves, un segundo.
So sorry about that. We have already a master, so I will have
Do you know who we are? Somebody told me.
Well, I think I will maybe let you enjoy this conversation.
We have done this 2 years ago.
Yes.
You know.
We thought it was, it was, I thought it was 2 years ago, but it was actually in 2021.
Okay,
I know time flies, so it's actually 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the theme of the 2021?
It was a Global Education Forum, good question. Not a specific one. Okay.
Y si hay problema, ambos hablamos español también, pero queremos hablar.
Como ustedes se sientan más cómodos, I feel it's better in English.
Yeah. Pero no hay ningún problema. Si alguien me pregunta algo en español, voy a responder. Pero,
okay. Perfecto. Hablan muy bien español, tal vez para preguntar.
Forza Italia, vamos.
The good news.
Responder húngaro o alemán o ruso o lo que quieras.
Pues como usted le apetezca. La buena noticia es que tenemos a mucha gente conectada online, o sea, en la salita más pequeña, tenemos gente que nos acompaña aquí, que pueden hacernos preguntas también si quieren. Pero vamos a, we will have, please introduce us, if you do.
This Graham Greene wrote a novel about Cuba, Armen in Havana, right? This is Armen in Havana. I'm a gringo, tipo contrabande, emigrante, okay? Tipo contrabande. And this is, our ambassador in Cuba is called Chargé d'Affaires because something that we're going to be talking about. I hope they're not listening to this.
No, I'm sorry. I want everybody has access to this information.
Okay. I'm just saying it so they can hear it and all that. This is the American Chargé d'Affaires. I mean, everybody knows what that is. An ambassador who cannot be called an ambassador for political reasons. Thank you. We have politics in the United States. It's called Miami. And Los Cubanos. I mean, this is off the record, right?
Okay. No, we are live stream. FYI. Yes, okay. We are. So let me just very briefly, please say that I don't think you need me here because I really hope you can enjoy the conversation. Follow other one's comments, and maybe get some questions from the audience. But I would love to hear a little bit about yourself, to introduce yourself, and why do you think they have chosen this title, Things University Presidents Don't Like to Talk About, and why do you think you are here, leading this conversation? Let's start with him.
You first.
Okay.
Well, okay, I'm Arpad von Lazar, and I'm here because, well, I like this institution, and also I happen to be chairman, okay? I spent my whole life in the international educational arena. I'm not an educator. I'm trained in politics and public policy and economics. But I spent a great part of my life being a university professor. I'm professor emeritus from the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, America's oldest graduate school of international affairs at Tufts University. When I joined the faculty there, I hate to say that, ladies and gentlemen out there in the world, I'm 200 years old. when I joined the faculty in 1967, it was still co-administered with Harvard. That doesn't count. Just one thing. Why is the title called Things University Presidents don't like to talk about? Because somebody asked me what should be the title. I said, why don't we, two of us, he a diplomat, and once about 30 years ago, a student of mine at Fletcher, now ambassador, and there are hundreds of them out there in the world, asked me, what should we talk about it? Let's talk about it, but what people don't like to talk about. I'm sick and tired of good news. Let me tell you what didn't work. I spent 50 years in academia, and I love to talk about what doesn't work, because that's important. That's what you have to fix.
Please.
All right, well, I'm Ben Ziff. I'm the Chief of Mission of the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba. I'm a career diplomat. I've been working for the Foreign Service for about 36 years, most of that time in 11 different countries, dealing with cultural and educational issues, dealing with universities, university administration, foreign programs for American students, and have dealt with various versions of what university presidents do and don't do under different cultural and institutional circumstances. And it obviously I know the United States best, but I think it is now a moment, given the global education forum that we're in, to discuss the global phenomenon of what it is that education should be, can be, should not be, and how it should develop for the future, given all the things that we're discussing at the conference. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation, I hope. And obviously, Dr. Walazar is not that old, and certainly not too old to bring his decades of experience to bear as well.
Don't you dare to call me Dr. Walazar. I'm Arpad.
Let's try to find the answer to that question. Why? And according to your experience, what are those things you were mentioning before people don't really want to talk about?
You know, let me tell you 3 things, just throw out the table, that presidents and the leadership, unless you're a leader of a university, you're not a leader, period. Go home, do something else. Okay, 3 things that stink. 1, money. 2, politics. 3, I don't know what to call them. I call them students, others call them customers. Something. Money, because it's always very little of it. Politics, because there is always too much of it. Damn it. 3, the customer, the student at loss in the world. Let's spin it there, maybe a little bit. Let's sort of...
Absolutely. Well, I think Arpad has touched on sort of some of the more relevant topics that are challenging the educational institutions of today. Some facts and figures. In the United States, about 25% of private colleges are in deficit. The average tenure for a university president now in the United States is about 5 years. And as we've seen recently with the campus protests in the United States, the very role of the university in the United States and around the world, frankly, is up for discussion. What is the value equation for education? If COVID taught me that I can sit at home in my pajamas and learn anthropology, why am I paying $85,000 for a university that I'm not able to use or attend or take advantage of? I mean, it reminds me, Arpad, of in the old days when we used to have cable television packages, right? You'd buy a cable television package and you'd get 162 channels, whether you wanted them or not. And now today's student/customer wants to unbundle that and have a streaming education. I want to choose one from column A, one from column B, one from column C, and I will pay for that, but I don't want to pay for the channels that I don't use. And really, I think the educational challenge of today, the fundamental one, is helping individuals, students, adult learners. Essentially, you're trying to cultivate and help them choose what to choose.
Yeah. Let me butt in on that and say, okay, just picking up strands and then coming back to sort of the big picture. Once, okay, he pushed a button which says, ARPA ban, the truth is, somebody ought to ask the question, are you there in this building or at home in your pajamas because you want to polish your brain, or are you there to get a job? Hello. Open mouth walks around the administrator and says, would someone give me a napkin so I can blow my nose? Can't answer it. And you want everything or you get nothing. You know, just one strand. Keep that in mind. This is sort of an unanswered question. Then pick up another strand, like the money or the politics strand. He mentioned it. Customer says, I have to put all that dough on the table. Okay, that was the slang. So money on the table to get this as a package. What if the world doesn't want this in 5 years or 10 years or whatever years? Okay, and I'm not talking about. You got to think, first of all, here's the problem, the time frame problem also. You have to think now, because you have to give an answer for somebody, for something, of course, which you don't know. What is this whole meeting all about? AI and future and everything, do we know? No, we're walking with our fingers in our nose and say we are experts and we know. The world is absolutely full with second-rate gurus. And we're paying for them, and we love them because they are named, but that's not the point here, we don't want to talk about it. So, let me get back for a second to the money. Please pay $85,000 or $45,000 or $36. I don't care how much. For something I don't know what it is. In terms of outcome, when I will be sniffing the roses from below, but he will be only 45 years old. That's a problem. Because we just, as a kid who's a teenager and God knows what and all that. So the university president is there, and I know, because I had to live with about 6 of them and babysit for them. I didn't say that. And says, I already have an unanswerable question, at least for him. What's the money for? And where do I get the money? Where do I get the money? I, a customer, or is she it, the boss man, the president of the university? Why? Because there is politics. One guy likes to burn that book, and the other guy says that should be your Bible. Of learning. Pardon me, I didn't want to offend the Bible. I'm also a believer for everybody who hears it out there and all that kind of wonderful things.
Early learner audience.
Yeah, but that's, and I want to, because I know you want to butt in on that, and I'm shut up right now. But that's the second problem. First of all, I want your money, but I don't know what for. I know, I can't give you the answer how that outcome will be. Second, if I say, please pay less, I'm in trouble because I don't know where do I get the rest of the money. Amen.
Arpad, I think the point is you're actually talking about a structure and identity problem that's before the money problem.
Right.
Because if you believe that sitting in your pajamas, you are able to learn as well as you can in a collective environment, you're having a different argument.
No.
right? You're having an argument about what is the content of what you are delivering versus what is the context in which you are delivering it. Now, right now, you talk about money, you know, there's an arms race in United States education because of demographics. You have more and more institutions fighting over fewer and fewer students. So I need a rock climbing wall. I need a koi pond. I need stuff that you're attracting, again, consumers versus students.
Yeah.
Are you telling people what to learn? Are you asking them what they want to learn?
No.
How are you curating their experience? Are you forming citizens? Or are you forming professionals? Are you making welders? Or are you making well-informed citizens? And I think it really is up to the university leadership to be able to disaggregate how much citizenship you want to, transmit, at the same time to be able to justify the return on investment, saying you will be a good citizen and employable at the same time. And that is the balance. Remember, when you started out in education, it was about trying to make, learn the great books, learn Latin, learn Greek, become a well-educated individual. This was not a mass phenomenon. You were educated and elite. And in the time that you have seen it, this is no longer an elite exercise.
Which is an excellent point. What you're talking about is the slippage in this time boxes. The zeitgeist. There's a wonderful, the 19th century German, the 18th century German philosopher talked about the zeitgeist, the spirit of the time. It's not only shrunk, because you push the buttons and all that kind of thing, and everything was become clear. But for the leader, it is not that you steps 1, 2, 3. He's talking about that. Yes, when I went to high school or gymnasium in Europe, whether it was the capitalist or communist, because I also lived in communism, the world. I'm 200 years old, so I knew how communist Hungary and capitalist Hungary. You had 8 years of Latin and the book. Now, that 8 years is now shrunk for 3.5 minutes. And the point is now that the leader cannot say to the consumer, i.e. the student, you're going to have 1 step, 2 steps. He don't want to. He want to skip steps. Or it should not be expensive. Back to the nasty money proposition.
Which comes to my mind, is it the same situation and the same problems you mentioned everywhere? Because he is also, saying that that probably lack of access of education we can see very specifically in the US, where it's more expensive than other places. But all these challenges we're facing, do you think it's exactly the same all around the world? And the most important thing, where would be the solution?
Well, I think we have a question back here, but before we get to the question, it's obviously not the same in every context. I mean, in Europe, education is inexpensive and accessible, but what to teach and how to teach remain the same problem.
Yes.
Because remember, when our pod went to school, when I went to school, you did not have an a la carte education. The real genius and the less intelligent in the same classroom, there was a standard presentation. It was a buffet. It was not a buffet. It was, you had 1 dish. Eat it, don't eat it fast, eat it slow, like it, don't like it, too bad. Now, we had a great presentation before, with AI and with the technology, the leader is actually charged with making a buffet educational offering to the person who has gluten. You need to have a gluten-free education and a paleo diet education and a vegetarian education, and that's what they expect. They expect a leader to be able to dedicate resources to each of these various parameters.
Before we go to Germany, just one word, okay, on this and how relevant this is. I have a son who's going to be 60 in July. Went to school with this guy, went to the same class. He happens to be irrelevant here, and all these things are irrelevant, what I'm saying, but important. If there is such a thing as irrelevant and important. Think about that later when you go home. Once he asked me that the president of a company, a very large international company, comes to Madrid often. Yeah, okay. He said to me, gringo, American, born.
From the US.
Yeah, of course, yeah. He said, Dad, and he was already president of the company, what kind of guy I should want if I have 4 aides top behind me. I'm the president of the company, thousands of people. If I lose 3 of them tomorrow, give me the profile of the person I should hire now. The year is 24. He asked me that question a few months ago. And I said, why don't you answer me? He said, okay, what you need? And he said, very simple. Give me a mathematician who can write poetry. Think about it. Give me a mathematician who can write poetry. And I said, thank you, Laszlo. His first name is Laszlo. Thank you, Laszlo. You answered that poet. So, what's the recipe? Damn it. But how do we know? How do we train them? You know, I believe if I would be running this university, I'm just chairman, or that one, that's what I would say.
Often on only raising money, and each deanship is a separate fiefdom, running its own, or his or her own operation, and that there's a lack of coherence to that operation. Is that?
And that the professors are notoriously independently minded and egocentric, and they refuse to do even what the dean wants them to do.
Don't you hate tenure? Yes. No. I think that you point to an interesting challenge that has changed in the past 20 or 30 years because you have so many stakeholders, very different stakeholders. Arkwright pointed out, you have people who said, burn this book. Other people say, no, make this the Bible. You've got people who say, no, we must be doing citizenry. No, we must be capacity building. We must be raising money. The for-profit educational model is what is riven with contradictions and challenges.
I understand, but in the corporate world, 50.1% is a decision, whereas in universities, 1% out of 30 is a tie.
What we in diplomacy, we call this red card diplomacy, like in soccer, right? You have a room full of people making a decision, and one person raises a card, and suddenly it's, maybe we shouldn't. I think the spirit of the academy is not is frequently in any organization can lead to paralysis. When you're talking about an institution that is dedicated to the production of knowledge in theory, you're not supposed to deny knowledge. You're supposed to welcome knowledge. And someone bringing new knowledge is not a reason for rejection. It's a reason for contemplation and review, which indeed leads to fiefdoms and paralysis and everything else. It's a huge challenge. And as I pointed out, when you have presidents whose average tenure is 5 years, it's very difficult to establish your own signature on the institution.
Okay, I want to butt in that with about 4 things. I promise to be short. Just the fact that, transparency, okay, very important transparency. You don't know how many people, thanks God, they can't argue with me, hate me for the way I talk. I tell them, you lousy or whatever. But anyhow, tenure. I had tenure in 5 minutes everywhere, wherever I went. Okay, but I was at one place. So I was the singular most unpopular young professor at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, and with all that glory and everything, Tufts University, because I every year introduced a measure to abolish tenure because I firmly believe it leads to, pardon the expression, fat rear ends and very slim brains. Thank you. Okay, so much for that, about that.
You just
Okay?
lost everybody online as a professor.
I just want to remind you guys, we are live.
I don't need a job, I don't need money, thank you very much, so go away, okay? And here I am, Chair. Second, but very important to this debate here. What would I say, okay, I'm following on him, and following on your thing, because you recalled, and then you yourself also asked the question, and what is to do, what's the answer, how do you fix the damn thing if it sort of just limps along, because that's what we're really talking about it. And we're gonna be trouble, big trouble or little trouble, everybody. One, what would I say as a recipe for a current with a new president? Remember my son's executive henchman behind his presidency who's a mathematician, can write as a concept, think about it, poetry. What would I say to a president? Okay, first of all, don't be a mini manager. Don't worry about the cost of the toilet paper in the budget. You understand, capiche? Okay. One, don't try to solve everything. You can't. Whatever decision you make that decision on the basis of what you see as something, again, don't work. As a chairman, I've been chairman for a few organizations, I always said, don't ever, in your annual report, tell me how wonderful things you did. Tell me what didn't work, because that's what we have to fix. I am not interested in the rest of the crap, pardon the expression. Please hold word allow me. So number one, be not that. Number two, try to be, balance the two things. What are the two things? Yes, you have to be a dreamer. You have to be a dreamer, and you have to say, I want to have a 5-year plan, of strategic plan, how I organize my organization. Everybody wants a 3-year plan, 5-year plan. Stalin had 5-year plans. Every apparatchik then applauded, went home and did boom, nothing. I almost said something else. And so, but everybody applauded at the party congress. It wasn't, che bello ma no è vero. Everybody understood, che bello ma no è vero. It's just beautiful, but we know it doesn't work. So instead of that, have a plan. That is my target. And then do pilots. Pay up here. As do small, as the French say. Do pilots, you understand? Again, think conceptually, not necessarily the pilot project. Take a trozo, take a bite and do it really well. And see, again, que sirve. Okay, it works, it helps. Now, what is the institution building is another question. How do you do those, from those things, a step ladder that the big will come to life? It would take another symposium to talk about that.
Yeah, I noticed that, apropos of your question, talking about deans and presidents, we neglected to discuss the role of the board in engaging in institutions with the many people who have their own opinions about what the president and the deans and the students should be doing.
Can I, we have a wonderful recipe for that. And one said, may I say, that gentleman wants a question back there. Let me better say, okay, you know what's my rule for, I have been chairman of several boards. And you know, what's my recipe? Every board should consist of 3 elements. One, the horses, los caballos. Que tira. The horses, they pull. Second, the door openers. They don't walk through the door. They know where the door is, they know how to open it, and they say to a faculty member, a dean, get off your, and do it. But that's the right door and that's not the right door. That's my second valuable here on the board. And then I have the third, through those flojos, idiots and hangers-on who come for rubber chicken and in Spain's case, good wine and lunch, and then they go home. Those, after 2 years, I usually tell them politely, you will be emeritus, bravo capitano, and go home. In short, get lost. You had a question? That's my recipe for a board. That's how it should consist of, which, again, is important.
Thank you. The question I have is a bit more
How many minutes?
basic, is that, with the transition from the 20th to 21st century, we are increasingly relying on technology and digital tools. But what I'm seeing is that we haven't prepared the teachers to accept the change in their roles from being the source of knowledge to one of coach and mentor. And I think, is that not the role of the president, to prepare the teachers in their new roles and their new challenges?
I mean, I think you're right, but I think it's a temporary problem because, my children who are in their 20s are very technologically proficient, understand the difference between the channel and the knowledge, and I think that we will see the next generation of instructors being able to overcome that and figuring out, depending on the institution and the mission, how they're going to transmit this knowledge. But I think Arpad said something very important. The successful institutions in the United States, at least, are those that are specializing very thoughtfully. The all-comers, all education, university for everyone, for all reasons, is becoming more an elite thing, whereas your online school to get your nursing degree, or to become a welder, or to become, whatever profession you want to choose to be, we're all part. You have those programs. So in other words, you are investing in the target audience that is likely to come to you, and that makes your job as a leader that much easier because you know your identity. You know what you're trying to do. You know what the student/client wants and needs. You're not attempting to address an entire panoply of often competing interests with this buffet of like how many croissants do we give and how much salad do we give. If you can specialize, whether it's online or whether it's a community college, I think to me that is the future. That is the future of education, not just in the United States, but across the board. Oh yeah.
Which comes, okay, they put in front of me papers that we have 4 minutes now.
I saw that 5 minutes we had before, so now probably 3, but you can take your time.
Yeah, that's right. Just where is Stalin when we need him?
I think he's sitting next to me.
Okay, so, no, but let's get serious, and I want to get back on that point, which is absolutely right. I'll be praising each other, but that's how it is. It goes back to the issue of knowing your own purpose. So kindly get serious and know, why am I here is the first question. And why am I doing it? And because I should be doing that, whatever, well. And indeed, if society needs, look, let's face it, in a 500,000 heavy refugee camp in Kenya or in southern Sudan, we ain't needing, so to speak, doctors. I want highly trained nurses. I want highly trained medical professionals, because we know someone can sit in Hawaii in front of that damn thing, pardon my expression, who is the best gastrointestinal surgeon or heart surgeon, and we know how to get his message live in picture to southern Sudan in the refugee camp, and a highly trained nurse will save excuse me, I'm emotional about it. The late life of that mother. Thank you. But I first need the highly trained, so my preaching lesson is, yes, we need the doctors, yes, we need all this. Here, right here, this university. But give me, instead of 25, annually give me 200 nurses or 400 nurses who know those things we're talking about. That's one step forward. That's one step forward. Or give me not 25 teachers, but 50 teachers annually, or any numbers what I'm saying. That's what Ben is saying. But that requires that you know your purpose and you're firm about it. And if you make a mistake, you say, well, at least I tried.
Some of the best decisions come only after a personal experience and how you can change from your own, little place in the world. Try to change things. We are running out of time, but I would like to give you some more, at least last minute, to hear more about your thoughts, conclusions, or anything else you want to share with us.
We're in a moment of very dramatic educational change because of technology, but also because of the world we're living in. And I think around the world, we need to re-examine the why we're doing, and not just the how. Because it's very easy to take the old model and say, okay, we're going to have a video conference instead of a teacher. It's still frontal. It's still someone, telling students what to do and write this down and give it back to me on a test. Now, I think we need to look at it from both ends. And the leadership, the challenge for great leaders, educationally or organizationally anywhere, is how do you curate that experience to best effect following what you want to do and addressing the needs of the community. But let's not face it, we're not, in education, in my view, we're not making only doctors or lawyers or Indian chiefs. We're making citizens. Yeah. So we can never abandon the element of morality, the element of sort of vision, the element of character building, and sacrifice that to make someone a more proficient glassmaker. That's not what we're about. And so that's my view.
Dr. Lazar.
Try to control time, yours and those around you. And try to find time, not for perfection, a little bit of that mix of brain, humanity, poetry.
Agreed.
And know how to count without the machine, ironically, despite the fact that we are in that age. How about it if you use him to check whether you were right? But let the brain first try to say, I can answer what is 5 by 5. And then in case you have doubts, check with the machine. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your expertise, for your insights, and especially for your emotional thoughts and experience. Okay, this is part of a session we are having today at Global Education Forum, and we really appreciate your time and you being here.
Well, thank you, Arpad. Thanks to everybody online.
Thank you. Oh, Stalin is dead. I just wanted to tell you guys that